If you're familiar with OnePlus, you'll know that one of OnePlus's co-founders, Carl Pei, left the company and started up his own company called Nothing. And that name, by the way, drives me absolutely nuts because it's almost impossible to have a serious conversation about a company called Nothing. So this week, Nothing made an announcement. They're coming out with a smartphone to the surprise of basically nobody. But at the same time, Carl Pei pitted Nothing up against Apple, which is bold, which is crazy, which is dumb. We're here to find out. So Cliff and I are going to talk about Nothing for the next half hour. So welcome to the Nothing podcast, Cliff Thomas. How you doing this evening?
I always try to give honest answers with this. I am tired. We were actually going to originally record last night, and I decided to take a nap before the podcast, and the next thing I knew, it was 2 a.m.
Actually, we were going to record the night before, but you were too tired then. And then
Yeah.
we were going to record last night, and you died. And then, and then
It has been that kind of week. So
Totally agree. So, I'm not really sure how this podcast is going to go. Because, normally I have kind of a plan going in, and I do have something of a sketched out outline of what I want to talk about. But just in general, I think what I wanted to talk about was Carl Pei's claims that Nothing is going to take on Apple successfully or otherwise. Because, Carl Pei made no doubts about it, no qualms, no, I don't even know what a appropriate word would be, but he made no bones about the fact that he is gunning for arguably one of the most popular phone makers in the world, and he's got 300 employees, and I'm just kind of wondering, is that the best idea? I mean, I kind of see what he's doing. I see what he's talking about. He's talking about, when you buy Apple products, you're locked into Apple's ecosystem. Fine. I guess that's annoying for people. But he's claiming that the Nothing phone will tie into all the most popular products that you want to use. And by the way, he on his list, he included AirPods.
Mm-hmm.
Which
as Tesla.
Which is, just think about the AirPods inclusion. First of all, he's going out on stage to the world and saying Apple sucks and we're going to take down Apple. And one of the first products that he talks about collaborating with is not only Apple's product, AirPods, but also the competitor to literally the only product that Nothing has made thus far. It just seems so weird. And speaking of which, there is going to be a Tech Yeah segment where we talk about those Nothing earbuds. In fact, if you want to dive into it right now, we can, while I try to wrap my mind around this irony, or we can toss it in the middle somewhere. It's up to you. Dealer's choice.
I did watch the video. I really wanted to watch it when it was live, but number one, I understand that YouTube was having issues, and two,
that was weird.
Knee deep in designing a magazine that was due of all days today, and so if I had multitasked, I probably wouldn't have done particularly well at any of the things that I was trying to multitask with. So I kind of had to make a choice there, but I did watch it.
Samesies.
And I know he does say he wants to compete with Apple, but it was a little more. It felt very nebulous. You know what I mean? Which of course, because they don't want to say too much, they're not going to, offer a lot of details.
Right.
I will say this. What it reminded me of, just when he's talking about Nothing as a company wanting to work with other products to bring them. To not lock anybody into their ecosystems and bring other companies, formerly siloed things, into the fold to work with their device. It actually reminds me of a company whose intellectual property they purchased earlier, another startup. I guess it was actually last year that they purchased this, but the rights to the branding and I guess some of the engineering from
Essential.
Essential, right?
Yeah.
And if you so one of the things that
Essential did make
was
some of those
working on,
claims, didn't they? Now that you
they
mention it.
did,
Now that you
they
mention it.
did.
Yeah.
Specifically, what they were trying to produce was a smart speaker or smart device that brought in all of the artificial intelligence. What would you call it? Digital assistant, I guess.
Yeah.
From the time. So back then, that was also Cortana. So they wanted to make all of those work through one device, which sounds awesome in theory, but in practice, it just has so many issues. Because number one, those are all, limited to each of the different companies, except for I guess with with Amazon, with
cancel.
Alexa, and with Cortana, you can actually license and bring it onto other things. But
right.
I don't know how they were like targeting those APIs, like bringing it all in and making it a good experience. And we never got to actually see it in practice because Essential
it never existed
for money. Right, exactly. It was basically vaporware, or even if they did have something working in the background. But that whole idea is was what Carl talking about what he did in the video reminded me of, and I did think it was really fun at the also and stuff from Essential now.
Right. And
I just don't know what it really means. All I can say is that it's interesting that he talked about in that video that they would not be opposed to being like a white, I don't want to say white label manufacturer, but a consulting on creating products for other companies.
Yeah.
As well as creating their own.
Yeah.
And so that opens up a whole new dimension for Nothing as a company. And I can see how that could bring in income and when they don't have a huge product portfolio. So I just don't know what it means. It just, like I said, it feels nebulous. It feels like you said, ambitious, maybe dumb, but it feels that way because we don't have any details. And in the absence of all that, all we can do is speculate, right?
Right. And I mean, the thing is, I've had conversations with a number of like insiders in the mobile industry, and I think what Nothing's biggest problem is going to be is just getting the name out there, finding the brand recognition. Like, they've got a lot of brand recognition coming over from like the OnePlus faithful, which is great. Like, and if you watch you didn't watch the live stream, but I was trying to watch it while I was waiting for YouTube to sort out its issues. There were people in the chat like, "Oh, OnePlus is going down. Oh yeah." It's just like, fine, but and one of the other tenets that Carl Pei fell back on was the idea of community, talking with the community. So, like, that's very OnePlusian of them.
I mean, the whole thing felt very like OG, like
OG
first
OnePlus.
Couple of years in business, OnePlus. Yeah, I mean, from really not giving a lot of details to stressing community.
Yeah.
To being ambitious beyond what you would think they're actually capable of, except the difference is that, and it wasn't really discussed all of that, and we didn't really know the business relationship so much at that time. And what I mean is they had the parts bin and I guess financial backing of BBK,
right?
So at least they had something to fall back on. Nothing doesn't have that, at least that we know. I mean, they're truly a startup, and when have shipped one product.
Right, exactly. And from a phone perspective, like, just breaking into the United States basically requires a carrier agreement. There's no way around it. You deal with T-Mobile, you deal with Verizon, you deal with AT&T, or you do not sell phones here. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. But even from like an ecosystem perspective, when you think about what he was saying, we're going to try to build this one thing service that works with everything. That sounds very Samsungian too. Like, Samsung's Bixby was supposed to work with like a whole bunch of other different products and services. But when you stop and consider that if Apple is your target, so many other companies, so many other much, much bigger and richer companies have tried to take down Apple, and Apple is still doing just fine today. I mean, it. I don't understand the logic behind putting Apple in the crosshairs and and telling everybody we're gonna come after Apple. That I mean, just make a good phone, guys. And if you make a good phone, Apple will notice, right? I mean, am I wrong there?
No, you are right. But I think if you're talking about Carl Pei, you also have to realize I think this falls back to the the OG OnePlus strategy. You know what it reminds me of actually? Is that this happens sometimes in boxing where you have like or where you have an unknown boxer that says that they're going to take down whoever, and that's usually somebody that's an established entity,
Right.
and that match probably never happens, but at the same time it builds hype, gets the name out there for because what Apple is in no danger of being taken out by anybody. Especially someone like
Nothing.
not even the federal government. I'll be honest. So yeah, nothing really can't offer them too much in the way of a fight, and I don't think that's their intention. It's a way to create an artificial controversy that gets their name out, and it's just grassroots marketing. That's my opinion.
And when you think about it, we're living proof that it's working because here we are talking about it. We're
Right,
talking,
exactly.
we're discussing the whole thing, even if we're talking about how absurd it is. Here we are. But let's look at the logistics here. Nothing wants its phone to work with a number of different other companies. Let's figure out what that would take. Because I'm kind of wondering, like, I have to think that if Tesla was mentioned by name, maybe the groundwork is already there. That you'll be able to use your Nothing phone to unlock your Tesla car. Or maybe, can you already do... I don't have a Tesla, so I don't know. Can you already do that if you have like an Android app or something? I mean...
I don't understand I don't understand the Tesla thing, because Android phones already work with a Tesla, just like... And maybe there's... some
Right,
deeper
there's like an app or
integration that
something.
they're talking about
Yeah.
that I don't know. And I think, at least with the original Apple AirPods, that they technically would work with an Android phone. You just didn't get the software enhancements.
I think they still do.
And the rapid connection, the quick connect, whatever Apple calls it.
Yeah. I think they still do. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So that, I mean, again, it's really... this is why I go back to with what he was saying. I don't understand what he's really talking about, because and maybe I need to go back and rewatch it again. But it just felt like a lot of words, and
with no all flash and no substance, basically.
I guess. I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, I think Nothing is in a lot of ways. I don't want to say it's modeled after Apple, but I think they value some of the same things outside of a walled garden, and I think that's where they definitely differ based on what Carl Pei is saying, right? But they are a design first kind of company, right? I mean, if you look at what they talked about, what they actually showed of what
Nothing OS
to be so they showed for the phone 1 is what they're initially calling their phone. So Nothing OS, which is just a skin on top of Android that has some interesting ties back to their branding with the font choices that they're using with that go back to the dot matrix. He talked about sound design, which I would agree with him, and I like that he said that sound design is very important.
Of course,
I would agree with that. And that is something that Apple has always been very good at. Going back even to the original Mac. And then I think something else that OnePlus was really good at when Carl Pei was there, and I think this had a lot to do with him, was haptics. Something else that Apple is really good at. So it seems like their core values are to offer a very tightly integrated and nice experience from like just handling and using the device.
Yeah.
And consistencies with the design that feel very Apple-esque in terms of the language that they were using.
And
now, beyond that, I don't know, because that doesn't mean you're directly competing with Apple.
Right.
in any kind of a meaningful way.
But, you know,
I know you're talking about integrating things then. I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, like, speaking of design, you have some earbuds there that are very nicely designed, and maybe we can transition on over into a little tech
Yeah, so
segment.
let's talk about nothing real quick and some of the things that they've done on the design side, right? So
Right.
I'm holding in my hands the updated. This is the black version of the Nothing Ear One earbuds, their first product that they launched,
Okay.
and they hired. And I don't know. I don't think they bought the company, so I think they just hired Teenage Engineering. Which, if you're into synthesizers, making your own music with like MIDI and stuff like that, you might know Teenage Engineering from the synthesizers that they've created. And they
Yeah,
have a
and,
very
and
like
also the
whimsical,
cartoons.
playful.
Michelangelo's my favorite. Anyway.
That's a little bit different, but
Yeah.
so they hired a company that's in teenage engineering that designed this product, and their design aesthetic is this clear, which goes back to the Nothing label, right? So the case is clear. I'm actually showing this on video, and even the stems for the earbuds are clear, and you can see
Like
even
the
if it is
components
just kind of like an
inside.
affectation. What's that?
Like the components inside, or
Right, you can see some of the components and where the contact points are for charging, and it is definitely different. You don't see, something like this sort of style of design minus like the coloring was something that Apple did with the original iMac,
right.
with the Bondi Blue one that they launched, and then from there. I mean, and that actually launched. I don't know if you remember, like the late '90s through like the early 2000s. There were all sorts of products that like adopted that. Like, do you remember like cordless phones that were clear? It's just all sorts of different things that adopted that. So yeah, so that's their design aesthetic, and it looks like they're trying to do something similar to carry that through to the phone. But these are, in the end, these are $100 earbuds that have a cool case. And they are comfortable. They're lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
The sound is good. They have active noise cancellation. That is okay.
Okay.
So when you're talking about earbuds, especially around this point, I mean, there's so many different competitors out there, and
Yeah.
these definitely stand out. From the perspective of they give you a lot for the money. They have wireless charging.
They do. Nice.
Yes, and then you can also charge them via USB-C. They integrate. I forget what Google's
The fast
term for it
pairing
is, but
thing.
it's the fast pairing,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I haven't seen a lot of headphones use. I think. Let's see. There was I can't remember the name of the company that when before the Pixel Buds launched and that standard first came up, there was a company that had a few different headphones, but it's mostly the Pixel Buds that are famous for using those. So in that perspective, they're actually more like an Apple product than a lot of other earbuds that I've used, where basically if I open the case before I even have them in my ears, you can hear them chime and they're connected to whatever phone I've paired them with before.
Yeah.
They do have a companion app, which is nice. A lot of lesser earbuds in terms of price. I think that's where they save some money by not developing something on the app side. The app, I think it's funny actually. The companion app that goes with these is very similar to the rest of Nothing in terms of what I guess you would call their design ethos, which is I guess in a lot of ways is kind of like Apple. Like as an example, there are presets for sound, but you can't create your own custom equalizer because they're just trying to keep things, in my opinion, simple.
What
right?
about like customization of like the taps and the commands and stuff like that?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yes, you can. So you can actually customize them for each of the different earbuds. They have a capacitive on the stem and on the outside
Earbud.
of the earbud itself, right? So you can swipe up and down to raise and lower the volume, and
Really?
then you can customize the amount of taps. Yeah, that part is really cool, and
That's
it works
neat.
really well. Supposedly, when these originally launched, it did not work that well, but which is why I actually waited to purchase these, because I it's a new company,
Yeah.
and I mean you're almost usually when you buy a product like that, you kind of almost become a beta tester.
Yeah. Yeah. What about do they have the in-ear detection? Like,
Yes,
okay.
they have in ear detection, which is really nice. So yeah, especially with me, I mean that you do have the ability to do the hear through thing if you want as well with
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
But I just culturally, at least when you're in like a work environment, talking to someone while you have earbuds, or especially if you have over the ear headphones on, just feels a little off, especially if it's your boss.
Mm.
So yeah, if I take these out, it actually stops the music, which is really nice.
I
Yeah, the
am
app is
I'm
really
currently testing a set of earbuds that does not have that, and it's really annoying.
it is very annoying, and it does work really well. So yeah, I'm like they get this; these earbuds get all of the basics right, and I think they're priced right too. $100 for these is a very fair asking price.
Yeah.
And I will say the case is kind of big. I don't have another set of earbuds here to compare to, but I will
Hmm.
tell you that it's like a third again wider than the Pixel Buds A that I have.
Okay.
But it's lightweight, and I mean it's definitely pocketable. And here's what's something that I think this just goes back to the design, right? I'm going to put this close to the camera. It's not going to be anything that people on the listening to the audio portion will appreciate, but it's got this little indentation.
Yeah, what is that?
So it serves to, if you actually open it up
It's
here,
almost like a thumb indentation on the back of
it
the
is. It's
case.
exactly the size of your thumb, but it also hold when you close the top of the case, it holds the earbuds. Like if they were to get jostled around, it presses down onto both of those earbuds so that they
To
don't
make sure that they stay in the charging.
correct.
Ah,
But
gotcha.
because
Okay.
it is the size of your thumb, it almost becomes like a little fidget
Little fidget
spinner.
toy.
Yeah. And I think that's intentional. It's kind of
I
like
wouldn't doubt it.
It reminds me of like the older Motorola phones, and actually I think they still have it, where you had the indentation where the Motorola logo was on the back.
Yeah.
That eventually became where the fingerprint sensor went.
Motorola phones still have that, by the way, but
Yeah.
we just
Well, some of them do. I'll just put it that way.
yeah, well,
So yeah, I really honestly have been pleasantly surprised by these earbuds. It takes a lot. Like I have definitely heard much better sounding earbuds. But you know, you're spending $200 on those. So
Yeah.
I don't think for most people it would be worth it. Especially for everything that these pack in for the price. I would definitely recommend these. I mean, they're actually my go-to right now, and I have 6 or 7 different pairs that I could choose from, including
yeah.
better sounding ones. I have the MX3s. I'm just like shortening that the from Sony.
From Sony, yeah.
Right, which sound amazing, but the case is like the size of a wallet. It's huge, and the earbuds are also gigantic. And so, you know, if I was at home all the time, I guess we should talk about battery life real quick.
Yes.
I would say they're pretty good. I've been using these without recharging them. Did I mention these have Qi charging?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so Qi charging, yeah, that's right, I did. But I have been listening to these for probably without recharging for like 3 weeks, and they're now down to 30% in the battery.
Okay.
And granted, I'm not using them all day. I'm kind of swapping back and forth. So
Sure.
I don't know if they have the most amazing battery life, but just for me who casually listens to them, I mean, I haven't had to recharge them yet, so take that for what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard thing to measure. Just
It really
the
is.
same way that it's hard to do with smartphones, because everybody uses them differently. So
Yeah.
I can only speak from my perspective. But yeah, I think between the interesting design and all the features that are built in, the sound quality, which is pretty good, and then the app, which isn't super feature rich, but you know, gives you quick access to the things you need, and then I think seems fairly well designed. I like the product, I do,
Yeah.
and it gives me hope for because they're also actively updating it with firmware, and as far as the earbuds themselves and the app, which gets updated every once in a while, it gives me hope that, you know, once we get a phone, that hopefully, you know, they'll also. I mean, what did Carl Pay say? Like 3 years of 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates.
For the phone, they said 3 and 4, actually.
3 and 4. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So like,
so go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna go ahead and transition on back to the main conversation regarding the Nothing and the Nothing Phone 1 and whatnot. I think, like, in general, I think the phone is probably going to turn out to be very similar to what we saw in the early stages of OnePlus. You know, a very well-designed phone, very well-designed skin. I like the fun little thing that they did with the voice recorder, where they have like the manual scrubber, you know, wheel. That was
exactly
that was kind of cool too.
Well, that's the kind of details that also that Apple does, and then I keep going back to where I do see some similarities in their approach to design. And
So like I personally, I think it would have been a better idea for Carl Pei to come out and say nothing is going to be a lot like Apple, not we're going up against Apple. Like, if you want to be
Right.
like Apple, that's fine. Like, we're going to put a premium on design. We're going to put a premium on, you know, cost efficiency, or, you know, we're going to make sure that all the devices in our ecosystem work great, and we're going to even expand that ecosystem out to other devices. Like, if they had said all that, we're not having this conversation right now. There would have been a 1 minute
Right.
news hit, you know. But
Well, I think that's the point.
that's the point. Yeah, you're right. That's probably exactly the point. Was, you know, we're gonna
Going,
go ahead.
I was going to say, just circling back to what you were talking about with carrier relationships, and in terms of a startup or new phone manufacturer having success, at least in our market. Yeah, I agree with you. That is a very hard road to haul.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, because I keep coming back to Essential, because there are some similarities, right? Because I was thinking about some of the other small companies that were Western markets, right? So now I'm not thinking of like a Xiaomi or something like that.
Sure.
Because that's such a different. Although it does, I mean, actually, let's talk about Xiaomi real quick. It does sound like,
All right.
because Xiaomi, obviously a different company now, right, in terms of size, but they have always considered themselves kind of a lifestyle company. I mean, they have a whole lot of different products besides just smartphones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
so that is like an ecosystem of products, right? I mean, they've made a micro four thirds camera. They make computers. They make TVs. They make lighting stuff. I mean, just a whole broad range.
Speaking
of
of
things.
which,
And they have for a long
Xiaomi,
time.
call me. Anyway.
Right? Exactly. And it did sound like maybe that's sort of where they want to go based on what they were saying, and the fact that they've hired Dyson's former lead engineer or head of design speaks to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. So going, what I was actually going to say is they remind me a lot of Essential, in terms of companies that have tried this in our market and are kind of set up in a similar way. Not just because obviously they nothing bought the rights to their product,
Right.
in terms of like patents and things like that, but
Yeah.
because with both of their founders have relationships in the industry. With Andy Rubin being obviously one of the co-founders of Danger and then Creative Android.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Carl Pei coming from BBK Group, so, you know, Oppo and OnePlus and all of that. That gives them an advantage over another company, right? That might be trying to do the same thing. And I think what's different about Essential and Nothing versus like what was the Nextbit, right? And the Nextbit, to me, when they made a phone, almost felt like just a way to get the company bought for their software, because it was a vehicle for that cloud-based software for their apps and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
don't know if they ever actually planned on making many more phones. That, you know, it was
Whatever
like
happened with Nextbit? I mean, like, whatever happened to that IP?
they got bought by Razer.
Oh, that's right.
Which is
That's
why,
right.
if you actually go back and look at like the Razer phone and then the Razer phone 2, it has very similar design language.
I remember
Like
that.
Robin.
I remember that. Okay.
So that's where it's different, right? And Essential did have a carrier relationship with T-Mobile, if I remember right, and maybe Verizon. I think they were, or no, it worked with Verizon. It was certified by Verizon eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
So yeah, I think that's necessary. I don't know that that's enough. I mean, OnePlus went a long time before they, before they sold phones or through carriers.
Yeah.
And I
6 generations.
but when you have the backing of a large company, you can afford to do the Amazon thing and work at a loss, right?
Yep.
And
Nothing doesn't have that.
No.
So I mean, Nothing does have a bunch of investors, and they're opening up, community investment as well, which is
Correct. I got an email from them today, actually.
which is interesting. I don't think I'm going to be investing, but anyway,
No.
I'm not sure I buy that particular vision. And so, again, if they had come out and said we're going to be like Apple because we're going to put a premium on design and we're going to make just really good quality products that all work together, then maybe I would have been an investor. But
Right.
I'm not sure I'm buying the company line at this point. But
So here's an interesting thought, right? So let me take a step back. Nothing is talking about an ecosystem of products, right? I think they said they have a roadmap for like 4 products to launch this year, of which one of is a phone.
Right.
So the question is, does Nothing to be successful have to be successful at selling a phone? Or can they recover from that and still sell other things? I'm just curious on your opinion.
I think, it goes back to the video that Michael Fisher actually just put out regarding the next doc. And he started it off by, like the first minute. And like this is a very Michael Fisher thing to do because
this is the dream.
Well, no, because it's like completely out of left field.
Right,
they said that cameras would he basically listed off all the reasons why people were like expecting smartphones to fail and how smartphones just basically steamrolled over digital cameras, landlines. And like now it's MP3 players, and now it's coming up against like laptops, basically.
Right.
And it's like that is not a story I ever would have told. So Michael Fisher is a freaking genius, and just God bless him. Anyway,
have you ever listened to Rachel Maddow?
Not in a long time.
Well, okay. So what I love about Rachel Maddow, regardless of what your political affiliation is, she's really good at. She does this thing where she starts off and she'll take pieces really similar to what Michael does. And and this is why I'm going back to this, where it's almost like a little history lesson. And she'll take like 3 different pieces and then bring them in to telling a story that goes into like the topic of the day. And I love storytelling like that. Like that.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of when you started talking about that. It's very similar.
Okay.
He is a genius with that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway,
like an aside.
So basically the thesis statement of that was, basically all this stuff is centered around the smartphone. So can you be a smart tech company without having a smartphone? Sure. I mean, you look at Anchor, you look at, Eufy brand is where I'm going with that, obviously. And you look at, any number of smart home products, you can make smart products. You could make earbuds and have nothing to do. Helm was one company that we talked to last summer that exclusively makes audio products. Yes, you can do that. But in order to fulfill, I think, what Nothing's ambition is, you need to have a successful smartphone product, because I think the smartphone is the hub of any other smartphone, any other smart technology, whether it's headphones, whether it's a vacuum cleaner, whether it's, a smart bike or an e-bike or something like that. It all comes back to the smartphone and the app that's running on that smartphone. So
which is why Xiaomi is such an interesting comparison, right? As the possible future of nothing.
Right.
Maybe not in such an expansive way, but I don't think that you would have had the rest of the products that Xiaomi now has in their portfolio if they had not sold phones at a 5% profit level and sold so many, right? I think that all begat the others, right?
So, I mean, it's just a question of, it's a question of goals. It's a question of like what Nothing actually wants to accomplish. And, we've learned, like you said, very nebulously what Nothing wants to accomplish, but I don't think we have the full story yet. And I don't think we've realized, I don't think Nothing has telegraphed what they will settle for. And I'm not trying to make a pun there. But, because it's one thing to have ambition. You set out with like 3 targets: your best case scenario, your worst case scenario, and where you think you'll likely end up. And we've seen the best case scenario. Carl Pei has told us what the best case scenario is. I think we have an idea as to where they realistically think, but we don't know what their worst case scenario is. So I mean, it's just a matter of finding out, and obviously we will be covering Nothing more extensively, I guess, that in the future as news develops. But for now, I think we have spent plenty of time talking about Nothing. What do you think?
Yeah, I will just say one closing thought, and that's do you remember the days? Of course you do. 2012, 2013, 2014, back when you didn't have screen, products leak the way they do now.
Hmm.
And the mystery was part of the fun. And that, I think, is why now nothing can build the hype that it is, like kind of like OnePlus did, but almost to a larger degree, right? Because
we don't know anything about this phone.
Little morsel that just showed screenshots and some animations from the OS, and they're not telegraphing their punches. Like, we really have no idea where they're going.
Right.
So I'm excited for that. I'm glad that companies are doing that again, and it makes me wish that other companies would do this too, because it creates that excitement. I don't want to know. Like, Google's almost done the exact opposite. They're like, oh, you're going to leak our products? Well, here it is 6 months in advance.
Yep. And I think I think whatever the skin that they released, the launcher that comes out in April, whatever smartphone I happen to be using at the time is going to be running that, because I'm curious. So, unless, of course, I'm still on iPhones, but I won't be. I won't be. I'm done with iPhones after this week. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where they come. And, summer is a very, even just the word summer is a very nebulous thing, because that could be June, that could be, and almost into September. So we'll have to see when that phone actually does launch. We'll have to see if Digital Trends will be among those covering it, which I'm sure we will be, at least if I have anything to say about it. And right now I do. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And good luck to Nothing. I wish them the best. But. And I still hate. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I would wish you the best if you would just change your damn name. But for now, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to the podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show. And if you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefitofthedowd. You can write to the show by visiting benefitofthedowd.com/contact. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for coming on and talking about Nothing, and for all of his hard work behind the scenes. But most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for giving me the benefit of the Dowd. And we can stop recording.
And scene.
Yep. Stop the backup. Go back to Zoom. Stop that recording. And okay. Are you sure you want to stop recording to the cloud? Yes.
Recording stopped.
Recording stopped. So, you know what? Hey, say something real quick, Cliff.
Flobbity floobity.
Okay, good. The other people could hear you. I wasn't positive about that, and I meant to do a sound test before we went on, but I forgot. But I see from my mixer here that on Twitch they can see you. And so
always a good thing when you're not talking to yourself.
So that is generally how it goes when we do a panel podcast. So, and one thing, I didn't want to stop in the middle of talking. And I'm turning this way, but my camera's actually here, but this is where the screen is. I didn't want to stop the podcast like in the middle to say, by the way, that cough there, I'll take that out in post. But you may have seen me like turn my head and cough. No, but you might have seen me like cough off to the side. Cliff sniffled a couple of times. Yeah. One of the benefits of doing a tape sync like this is his track and my track are completely isolated from each other. So I can delete my cough while Cliff is talking, and I can delete his whatever that while I'm talking, and it's very slick. So yeah, that's how we do that. That's how we do that thing we do. And I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the Twitch stream as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say so long, Twitch streamers. I hope you enjoyed watching this panel podcast, and you got a little preview of what's coming out this weekend. I'm going to be editing all this tomorrow, so goodbye Saturday. And I'll see you all. I will see you all later.